Just want to see him play hard and play well.
I'm just going to approach it like the same way and just go out there and, play my hardest.
It's Adams again! The connection and the touchdown! 73 yards! Here's Khalil. Herbert, look at the speed! The shot of the tackle and a touchdown! Go Bears!
It's time for the Bears Nation podcast with your hosts, Kevin Lapka.
I still think he can be serviceable enough there at left tackle. That's an upgrade. Is that an upgrade over Charles Leno? You at least can't say it's a downgrade.
And Jake Hassan.
They're going to get murdered out there. It's bad. Throw me through the wood chipper. I'd rather take that fate over whatever meets the Bears starting quarterback week 1.
Shall we play a game?
Strap it in. It's the Bears Nation podcast. Let's get it.
Bears Nation podcast, October 13th, Wednesday. It is rivalry week. It is Packers week. It is the biggest game of the year, probably. I mean, obviously it's early, so it's not hard to say that. But it's the biggest game of the year, a week in which you have the opportunity to take first place in the NFC North, a game in which you get to set the tone early against the big Green Bay Packers because you welcome them to Soldier Field and Justin Fields' first start against them. So, myself, Jake Hassan, with Kevin Lapka, to break it down. We're going to play a little Who You Got. We're going to break down the matchups. We're going to talk about what we expect. Coming off the big win against the Raiders, try to make this 2-game winning streak a 3-game winning streak. Kevin, how you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling great. We got I.L. Groiper in the chat already saying, let's go. Agreed. Huge game. I'm ready to go, Jake. It's only Wednesday, but I'm juiced. I'm amped. We haven't beat them since 2018. Even, prior to 2018, this team has dominated you for a decade, for longer, really. Since Aaron Rodgers has been there, since Brett Favre has been there. This team has dominated you over that span. But, Jake, I think this is where everything changes. You know what this is? This is the changing of the guard game. You have Aaron Rodgers in his self-proclaimed last dance, and whatever you want to call it, in a year that may be his last. And this isn't the MVP Aaron Rodgers we saw in 2020. And on the other side of the field is the young kid from Columbus, Ohio, who looks to dominate the NFC North for the next 15 years the way Aaron Rodgers has. And at home, in front of the Soldier Field crowd, in the season the league has branded as the biggest one yet, on October 17th, 2021, Justin Fields will take the reins from Aaron Rodgers as the king of the North. Little Game of Thrones reference there for Jake. And the rest will be history.
Thank you, Kevin.
The rest, I did it for you. I did it for you. The rest will be history. This is where it happens. I get that feeling. Although, Justin Fields hasn't thrown for 400 yards each game in the past 2 weeks. And, we're not firing offensively. And the Packers are 4-1. It has all of the makings of this is where the changing of the guard occurs in the NFC North for that new throne, that new top dog in the division, not just from a quarterback standpoint, Jake, from a team standpoint. I mean, if you beat Green Bay this week, you take over not only first place in the division after week 5, or after week 6, but you likely set the tone for the next 10, 15 years. As long as Justin Fields is in Chicago, the Chicago Bears should own that division for the most part from the time after October 17, 2021. So that just a little rant there, a little speech, little pregame amp up speech, but it just shows you the importance of this game, man. I really think this could be the changing of the guard.
I'm glad you're not putting too much weight on this game. I'm glad you're approaching this reasonably. That's really good. I'm really glad you're approaching Justin Fields' first start against the Green Bay Packers reasonably and with a clear head.
Whenever have I been reasonable, Jake? Whenever have I been reasonable?
That was even for you. That was impressive. But no, I mean, you're right in a way because a lot of people do see this as the quintessential prove it moment for Justin Fields because obviously in years past in the Chicago Bears history, even if you have a bad team or an average team, if you could beat the Packers, then it's a successful year. And part of why last year was such a slog, why it felt like we were just struggling through it was because you got your ass handed to you by the Packers, not once, but twice. And in the Mitch Trubisky era, you only beat them once. So that's why a lot of people are putting a lot of weight in this game like you are, Kevin, and like I'm trying not to. But a lot of people are excited, and people are saying, "Oh, Justin Fields, well, he's built for this. He's already made comments about this rivalry, and he's faced a big rivalry with the Ohio State and Michigan rivalry." And
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of people are excited, and this is going to be his second NFL start at Soldier Field, his second start in front of the home fans and against real competition, in a game that everyone's going to be juiced up for. I mean, people are going to be excited for this game. Like you said, everyone was telling Aaron Rodgers all offseason in Chicago, go do Jeopardy, go do something else. We'll see you later, you know? So yeah, I mean, it's hard not to be excited for this, because also the Packers have looked pretty mediocre. They've looked beatable.
Yeah.
If you want to give them credit, they've looked beatable. They almost lost to they should have lost to a Cincinnati team that you beat pretty handily at that, in Justin Fields' first career start. Really, I mean, it wasn't his first career start, but his first extended game action, I should say.
Yes.
And, so a lot of people are excited about this because the Bears have that top 5 defense again. And, the last time the Bears were a top 5 defense, they kind of kicked Aaron Rodgers around and made him uncomfortable. And, this team arguably could be better. I mean, it's hard to say that was a history-breaking team, but the pass rush has certainly been better this year, with Robert Quinn playing like the guy that you paid him to be. So, yeah, I mean, people are excited, and it's hard not to be excited, and I'm trying to temper my expectations because I don't want to get hurt again, and I don't want Aaron Rodgers to rip my heart out and hold my beating heart in his hand again. But, I mean, like you said, this is theoretically, this should be the turning of the page, because like I said, you got one win against the Packers in the Mitch Trubisky era, and all the other losses were pretty bad, and none of them were particularly close, kind of peaking with last year when you just got dominated in 2 games in what, a 4-week span against the Packers. So you're looking for that fresh start this year. And I mean, it's hard to say you're not going to get it, because you have the new quarterback, you hope Bill Lazor's still calling plays. It looks like it.
Oh my God! Don't question that. Bro.
I'm just saying, myself included, we know Matt Nagy's ego. I wouldn't be surprised if he took it back last year when it came time in the playoffs in the biggest moment. So, I mean, it's hard to believe that he won't have a hand in it again. But we'll focus on the positive stuff. Against the Raiders, we talked about on Monday what you were able to build off of, how you started to kind of take those steps in the right direction, even if the numbers they didn't wow you. You saw things start to move in the right direction as an offense. You were able to lean on the running game, which was great. And, this week you're going to have to pass more. That because it's Aaron Rodgers and the Packers and not Derek Carr and the crumbling Raiders. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but yeah, it's hard not to be excited.
It's hard
except the injury report is a little concerning this week, but we'll get to it, or today.
Yeah, we'll get to it. I mean, to be fair, like if you were to kind of put it on a scale, I think it's even for both sides. When you talk about the impact of the players that are out, because they're losing Jair Alexander and center Josh Myers. Jair Alexander is one of the best in the league. His weight compared to a Akeem Hicks combined with a Jesse James and whoever else was ruled out already, like that's about equal. But you talk about expectations, and like this is why I kind of started off the show that way, is like in the past, and don't get me wrong, like every year, whether the Bears are 3-10 or 13-0, we are going to hype this game up equally. Because it's Bears Packers, it's the rivalry. It gives you something to watch. Even if the Bears are bad or the Bears are good, it's always a storyline. And every single year we raise expectations for this game. And 99% of the time we get let down and we get our hearts broken and we leave Sunday crying. And then we have to go face the Packer fans on our social medias on Monday. That's what happens every single year.
I wouldn't even say it waits till Monday. It's usually immediate aftermath.
It's immediate. It's quite immediate. And sometimes in some instances in the past, it's at halftime. Now we don't have to bring that up, but I have this feeling that, this isn't the same formidable foe that I've been afraid of in the past. Like, this is still a team that can beat you for sure. This is still a team that you are nervous about. Without a doubt, this is a team that can still, win football games handedly. But compare it to just last year, compare it to 2012, compare it to, these years in the past. It feels different because this is so far this year, one not only has had close games, like teams can have close games and still be a dominant opponent, but this team has been exposed already. And there are ways you can understand. There are ways to beat this team and crumble them. It happened against the Saints, and then they're sluggish against Cincinnati. They're sluggish against who else? They had a 1-score win against another team that I'm losing right now. The 49ers. You're sluggish against both those teams. What's the common denominator for both those games as well? On the road. You know what I mean? On the road at Cincinnati, at San Francisco, when they lost 38-3 against the Saints, what's the common denominator? In New Orleans. You know what I mean? Well, that game actually was in Jacksonville
neutral
because
site,
of hurricane, but still not at home. Not at home. So I'm just saying it feels different for me. And that's the best way I can put it, because again, in the past, you approach this game, yeah, you're excited. Yeah, you're ready to go, but there is in the back of your mind, although you don't want to admit it at all, and you never will, you're like, shit, the odds are we're going to lose this game. The high odds are we're going to lose this game. I don't feel the same way I have this week as I have in years past about this game. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way. Do you feel the same, like, about not being that same formidable foe and that same dominant force that they've been in the past, despite having a 4-1 record?
I recognize that they're not the same dominant team that they are, but I am not getting my hopes up because they're still good. They're still a good team, and also because the Packers. I mean, here's the problem with how close that Cincinnati game was, because now I'm afraid that Aaron Rodgers is going to want to come out and make a statement. And now I'm afraid of an Aaron Rodgers revenge week, that he's going to say, all right, well, we can't let that happen again. And he's going to come out and just absolutely hand your ass to you. So, yeah, I mean, I'm always more nervous. And I mean, this has been the case in the history of our show. You get us all jacked up for the Packers, and then I'm like, well, it's still the Packers, and your history against them suggests that it's not going to go great for you. So, I mean, I get what you're saying for sure. I do. And like I said, I think this is a more beatable team than in years past. I do think they have their flaws, and the injuries on their side definitely help that. And we'll see how those injuries progress. I mean, we all already know they're not going to have Alexander. So that's really huge for you, especially for Justin Fields as well. But to answer your question, yes, I acknowledge that they're not the same dominant, looming force, but no, I'm not letting that get my hopes too far up, because I'm still trying to keep a lid on it, because I'm not quite ready to get hurt again yet. By Sunday, I'm sure I'll be ready to be hurt again. But right now, I'm trying to remain a little even keel with it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm still, again, part of me is still scared that we're going to lose this game, without a doubt. Yeah. But it's, as far as like the way we're approaching it, and looking through the stats and looking through everything and knowing what you have as the quarterback position and just some of the other elements and factors, like, I guess the last time I felt this way was that week, was that the final game of the year against the Packers, week 17, 2018, when they actually finally beat them at home. You had the momentum.
Clinched the NFC North.
You clinched the NFC North. You played well. Like, and I think that's why a lot of this has to do with momentum. It has a lot to do with where the Bears are at with their momentum and what they've been able to do, and then where the Packers are at and what they've been able to do on the road versus at home, coming off of a closer game. Jake says that might fuel the fire. People might argue that, that they have things to figure out during practice and it's not the same energy. But I mentioned this last week as a stat. The Bears are still 6th in the NFL since 2018, since Matt Nagy in their record after a win, 19-10. Under Matt Nagy after a win. That's a 65% winning percentage. On the other hand, Green Bay has a 63.9% winning percentage, 23-13 and a tie and 1 in there. So you're actually statistically better than Green Bay after a win under Matt Nagy. So that's why I talk about momentum. That's why I talk about, where we have to look at what happened last week. And what happened last week was a statement win, a dominant win, and then a little bit of swag surfing in the clubhouse. A little bit of club dub makes its return. Once the Bears get going on swag surfing, the rest of the league better watch out, because once they have their culture back, which has been fractured for seemingly 2.5 years, that's when you start to get 2018 vibes. That's when you start to get, the just that energy of the team as one. And Jake, the talent of this year's team, I would say, at least offensively, heck of a lot better than the talent in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, and part of that is the Justin Fields factor. Obviously,
sure.
Justin Fields is a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky. So, and I'll compare it to last year. Like last year, especially in the game that Trubisky took the starting job back and you absolutely just got shit canned. You know, and the episode after I think was our longest episode like ever, and we were calling for everybody's job. But, you know, the difference is that game and those games last year against the Packers, you were kind of hoping, it felt like we were searching for a reason to believe that the Bears could maybe keep up in this game, and maybe you're kind of pinning your hopes to something, and you're kind of grasping at straws.
Yeah.
This year, obviously, you're coming off a win. Your offensive line just had their best game of the year. Your running game just had probably their best game of the year. Justin Fields continued to look better. So now it feels like, at least for me, like you're not really searching as much. You're not trying to like grasp for something.
Yes.
It feels like feels more realistic to think that you can at least keep up in this game and make it a game, and you're not done by halftime, you know, where you're not heaving down the field hoping to make a big play, praying early in the second quarter, you know. And so yeah, and that's, like I said, I think that's some of the Justin Fields factor, and like you said, comparing the offenses, the talent discrepancy from years past on the Bears. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Obviously, as the week goes on, I mean, the Bears have some injuries of their own to deal with and that we have to monitor. But yeah, I mean, it feels like a game that you can win, not that you should win by no means, but that you can, if things go your way, if you can take facets from last week and improve on others, which I mean seems obvious to say, but it's a game in which I can see you winning. It's not an impossible, I got to try and dream up this scenario in which it happens.
Right. And you know, so how does that happen? How do they come away with a win, you know, X's and O's standpoint, football standpoint? I said since week 2 or after week 2, rather, I was like, look, at this point, you know, in this day and age of the NFL, what you have on offense with what Justin Fields brings to the table, you know, you can expose defenses and win off of explosive plays, win these games 31-28, 31-21. You don't have to be winning 20-9, you know, whatever it was against Cincinnati, 24-7. I don't know exactly what the score. I don't remember the score of that game was, but you weren't going to win.
20-17.
I was at the point where you should be looking to win these games high score against the better teams, rather, you know,
Sure.
30s to 35, 31. You know, you look, I mentioned this last episode, Cleveland Chargers, 47-42, right?
Shootouts.
That type deal. Now, the past 2 weeks has made me look stupid for saying that, but now that's where I don't exactly know how to approach this game. Like, is it more likely you win 21-20, or you finally unleash Justin Fields? You finally say, look, we've disguised our offense the past few weeks by running play action and running, you know, up the gut. You're rushing at the third highest clip in the league. This is the game where you can really fool a defense if they've been watching the tape and say, all of a sudden, we're turning it downfield. We're turning it upfield. Darnell Mooney, Allen Robinson, Marquise Goodwin breaks one open, Demir Bird. And then we know Aaron Rodgers might have a chip on his shoulder, although our defense is playing well. We got to win this game 35-31. All right. So that's where I'm like, what is the more likely scenario? How are they going to operate this game? And I don't know what I would rather have or what I would rather choose, because the defense is playing well and they've been playing even better at home. So part is like, you really could neutralize Rodgers, and you really could, you know, they haven't been scoring the most points recently. They haven't scored 30. I don't think they've scored 30 plus points since the Lions, or they scored
30 against the Niners.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they scored 35 against the Lions.
But I don't like, this isn't the same MVP. Rodgers, what do you have to say about that? Like, is this the game? Because part of me wants to believe, going back to my initial rant in the speech, part of me wants to believe this is the game where this is the unleash. I mean, Justin Fields has had 20 passing attempts the past 2 weeks. This is where we see the 35. This is where we see the 40. This is where we see the air raid offense. You know what I mean? But maybe, is that a risk? Is that a risk? You know? Yeah,
no, I don't think you're at the point yet with this offense where if you try to get in a shootout with someone, especially Aaron Rodgers, you're going to lose. And I saw this point on Twitter today. I think it was from our man, Aaron Lemming. The thing that happened with Justin Herbert going off last year is that's the standard now. Like, that's what everybody wants from their rookie quarterback. They want Justin Herbert. Right. And that's just not going to happen, because Justin Herbert literally broke records. He literally made history. That's not going to happen. And I don't think this offense is at a point yet where you can go into a game against Green Bay and say, all right, it's going to be a shootout. All right, we're just going to straight up outscore them. Know your team. Know what the defense is capable of, and you have to look at the past games. Like they're not just going to suddenly go from a defense that or not an offense that runs the ball and hangs onto the ball and tries to win the time possession. And of course, tries to score points in those possessions, but is basically just going to beat you to death and just grind you to death. That's what they're going to try to do. So, and that's what they did against the Raiders. And granted, part of that was because the running game was so effective and you were getting basically whatever you wanted on the ground. But I don't think that's just going to change suddenly just because it's the Packers. Like, I don't think there's some grand scheme to say, all right, we've been disguising everything all this time. We've just been waiting, and that's now suddenly we're going to do all this new stuff. Your bread and butter. Your bread and butter is defense and rely on the run game. Keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hand. That it's going to be risky in and of itself, because if you do just go run, you're going to see some drives like you did against Vegas, and you maybe stall out and you only get field goals or you can't score at all. And then Aaron Rodgers, maybe you do outpossess them, but Aaron Rodgers is turning his possessions into touchdowns, and you're maybe only turning yours into 3 or 0 points, God forbid. So I think it's going to be more balanced than last week, because it's going to have to be. And because Alexander being out creates an opening. So there is going to be an opportunity for you to take an advantage there. But they're not just going to suddenly change the game plan. You know what you have. You have a strong running game. Your offensive line just had their best game. And granted, it was against a terrible defense in the Raiders. The Raiders can't stop anybody on the ground. But you established an identity already. They're not just going to suddenly change that just because it's the Packers. Because if you do that, that's how you're going to lose. If you're going to try and get cute, you're going to lose.
Right. I mean, well, yeah, you don't have to get cute, but I think you're right. So you kind of keep with the identity to a certain standpoint where, you're going to come out running the ball, and then, you're going to make that statement on the ground. But then you have to at one point, whether it's just for a quarter, whether it's just a few, you have to open it up at one point, because this is like,
but you have to do it within reason. Like you can't just come out slinging, because like I said, then you end up like you did last year, where you're down, where Mitch Trubisky's throwing interceptions deep down the field, and you're like, oh crap. All right. Now we're back to square one. Now we're down 14 all of a sudden. You have to do it within reason. And that's why I liked the Vegas game. They took shots down the field when the opportunity fit them. They weren't trying to force it. Like, let the game come to you. The Packers defense has some holes and they have some deficiencies. Let them make the mistakes. And this has always been the Bears' problem. They try to force it and they try to get cute and they try to create something out of nothing. Let the Packers make the mistakes. You have a quarterback that can throw down the field and throw down the field very, very well. So let him do that when the time calls for it. Otherwise, run them to death. Run them into the ground, because that if it's working, that's perfectly fine. Don't try to take shots down the field just because you feel like you have to. Wait for it. Don't try to force it. Just wait for the opportunity to come to you.
Yeah, but at some point you can't just wait all day. You know what I mean?
No, but the thing is, I don't think they'll have to.
So what's your argument is just that you have faith in the defense to really lock them up to the point where you feel confident enough that the running game alone, or not the running game, but that style that you saw against the Raiders and what you've seen since Justin Fields has been the starter is going to be enough for you to beat Green Bay.
I just think it's
based off your defensive value. You have you currently
I think it's both. I think it's both. I think it's the evaluation of the defense, how well they've been playing, and also knowing the limitations of we got to be realistic about this offense. I've been saying it for 3 weeks now. You got to take baby steps. They're not at that point where they could just say, all right, we're gonna Patrick Mahomes you, Justin Herbert you, where we destroy you. I think they can, but this is not the game to try it. Wait for another game. Wait for, another game where this is not the game to try. I get it where, because I know your argument. Yes, this is exactly the game you should try.
Yeah, maybe it
Packers,
is.
and you need to break their morale early. I just think this is such a big game. You have an identity established. Don't try to get cute too early. Establish what you're good at early. And then maybe if you do go up, let's say you go up 7-0 and you get the second possession and they still haven't scored, maybe then you start trying to, make those back-breaking plays. But stick with what you're good at right now.
If they go up 7-0?
If the Bears go up 7-0 early, let's say the Bears elect to receive the kick and then they open the scoring. And then let's say the defense is feeling the juice off that scoring drive and they turn the Packers away. And the Packers, let's say they even only get 3. Or let's say the Packers don't score at all. So you're up 7-0 and you get the ball back. That's when you could go start taking those shots and going for those back-breaking plays. Stick with your bread and butter now. If it works, there's no reason to change it. I get it. People want to break the Packers and people want to win this game badly and they want to get those exciting big plays. But you just saw how you can win the game last week. Like stick with that. Khalil Herbert and Damian Williams and this offensive line played really, really well last week. The defense played really, really well last week. So stick with that. Stick with that momentum of what you're good at and wait for those chances. Wait for Josh King to give you an opening down the field because he stinks out loud. Like wait for something to develop. Don't try to force it just because, oh God, all right, this is the Packers. We got to make something happen early. And because that's how mistakes happen. And that's how you get in your own head. So just stick with what you're good at. Stick with what you know and work with that. Don't try to get cute.
Okay, you have made a statement, my friend. You have made a statement. And well, this is interesting because TJ Shanoff in the chat says our bread and butter has been BS for decades. Let's be good at offense for a change. And he does have a point. And this is what I'm talking about too. Like, this is your bread and butter. This is your identity. This is the Chicago Bears identity. Okay, this has been the Chicago Bears identity for 50 years. All right, and it hasn't. And this is why. And again, going back to the changing of the guard, maybe this isn't just a changing of the guard for Justin Fields to Aaron Rodgers and the passing of the torch there. Maybe it's the changing of the guard of the identity of the Chicago Bears, where your defense is going to be good for sure, without a doubt. But you have to conform to modern day NFL football. And if you want to win the Super Bowl, you gotta win on offense.
Right. But Kevin,
it's not to say, it's not to say our offense can't be successful running it's not to say that that's not possible. You look at Cleveland, you look at Baltimore, you look at Indianapolis at times. Those teams win off of, well, not really Indianapolis, they're 1-4, but Baltimore and Cleveland, they win off ground and pound. I'm not saying that is entirely the wrong way to do things. That can be your identity, but for the Bears and what you have, and especially in this game, I'm worried that it's not sustainable, at least this week, and at least against the Packers defense that is 11th in the league against opponent rushing yards versus Vegas, which was 25th. And then, even if it is like maybe a lower scoring game, the reason the Packers beat you every year is there's always one play to fucking Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Alan Lazard, Devonta Adams that goes for 50+ yards, and it's backbreaking. It breaks you. It breaks you down, and you sit there and you're like, this is how it's going to go. The Bears need one of those. The Bears need a few of those plays to break them down. The Saints did it against Green Bay week 1. It broke them down. And honestly, I think given the state of Aaron Rodgers and the state of his relationship with Matt LaFleur and the organization, everything, I think this is a team that if you really get them down early and you really show that we are here to fucking play and you hammer that in early, it is going to be more difficult for them than it was in the past to come back, because I think they're more weak-minded now. They're going to crumble easier, and you have a guy at the helm on the Bears side who's a cold-blooded killer. Justin Fields is going to take you out if you have the lead. He is not going to let you come back. He's going to make the necessary throws. So I guess the bottom line, now that I say it, is like, sure, maybe, like, I don't know. I think you have to have a few of those. You have to experiment a little bit. You don't have to get
that's fine.
Cute, but you have to experiment a little bit and get those back-breaking plays.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. You could do that a little bit. That's what I'm saying. But wait for the opportunity. If you're Justin Fields or if you're Bill Lazor, wait for when you see something on the opposite side that you go, okay, this is it. Don't do it like. I get it. People are frustrated with the ground and pound and the defense. And yeah, our identity has been BS. I'm not saying make that identity or make that your bread and butter just for the sake of doing it or just because you're the Chicago Bears. I'm saying do it because you're good at it this year. Your identity, I agree with you. You have to be an offensive team. You have to be able to throw the ball 30 times and score points to be successful in the NFL. Completely agree with that. And I agree with TJ Shanoff as well. But like I said earlier in the show, that's not going to happen overnight. I've been saying it for weeks. You can't make that jump overnight. It's not going to happen right away. You don't have the personnel for that. You don't have the team for that.
You do have
but not to do it overnight, though. You can't. It's not going to happen like that. And
it can.
But it can't. But it
Justin
can't.
Fields is a great deep ball thrower. He's an aggressive. He's he's been the most aggressive quarterback in the NFL since week 3.
So let him do that when it's right. Don't do it just because you know you can. I said it on Monday. You took those baby steps. You saw the diversification with the personnel. You saw more tight ends. You saw more wide receivers involved. You got to slowly build it up. And like I said, not everyone's Justin Herbert. Like, we just don't, like, Justin Fields is not Justin Herbert. And could Justin Fields be Justin Herbert? Yes, absolutely. But you're not there yet. You don't have the offensive line yet. It's like, I know, I get it. Everybody wants the big, exciting plays, and it's the Packers, so we're juiced up and want to break them down early. But the way this team has gone since Justin Fields, since the Bengals game, is that you've slowly gotten better each week. And that's fine. That's just how it goes with a rookie quarterback, with a new offense, with a new play caller. So, and I agree. I think they'll be a little more aggressive than they were last year, or not last year, last week. I think it's going to continue to slowly get better. I'm saying do the ground and pound because it's working. There's no reason to go away from it because, oh, it's the Packers and we got to keep up with them. We thought we'd have to keep up with Vegas too because Derek Carr was playing really well and their offense was playing really well, and Darren Waller and Henry Ruggs, and this was a good offense. But if it's working, don't do it just because, oh, well, we got to throw the deep ball. We just got to do it. Like, and back to my original point, it doesn't just happen overnight. Do I think they have some tricks in their back pocket for this week for the Packers? Absolutely. Of course, you'd be stupid not to, but don't force it. Like, wait for them to make the mistakes first, because that's where you want to talk about Justin Fields' accuracy and how he's an ice cold killer. Wait for him to be like, yes, this is it. All right. I know we have the opportunity here. I'm going to make them pay for it. Like I know people want to get the offense going and we want to change that. And I think by week 17, we'll be saying, all right, yeah, this is an offensive team. We're seeing what you can be. It's week 6. It's Justin Fields' third start, official start. Like, it's his second start at home, first start against the Packers. You're not there yet. You're just not.
I mean, I think it's just more about the game. And when we talk about going back to what we said in the beginning about being scared and in the back of our minds, there's these situations.
And let me say this, if you can get it, then take it. I think, and this could change, the game plan could change. If you're getting it and the Packers are making those mistakes over and over and they're giving it to you, then yeah, absolutely take advantage of that through the air if they're giving that to you, which I think is possible. I think out of the gate, though, your game plan has to be, all right, let's stick with what worked last week and what's been working for us this year. If the Packers are giving up chunk plays, absolutely take advantage of that and throw the ball 30 times if you have to, 40 times if you have to. I just think the game plan coming out of the tunnel has to be what's been working for you in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can't disagree with that out of the tunnel, but this is also what we've seen in the past under Matt Nagy, whether he's calling the plays or not, is sometimes, you come out of the tunnel and – all right, let's say, sometimes you get unlucky. First series, you go 3 and out. Okay, you punt it away. Sure. Shit, Aaron Rodgers goes down and scores. And then you're playing desperate. And then you're playing from behind. And then you're getting, oh, shit, now we really got to do it. And now, it's too much. And then the other side of that is, the formula that scares you, the situation that's going to scare the hell out of me that I think is extremely possible is you go up, maybe you do go up 17-7, right? And you do it the way you've been doing it. You've been running it. And you're grounding and pounding and you're winning time possession. Cool, great, fun. And then Aaron Rodgers on the side saying, dude, this is easy, man, because this isn't sustainable. Because all I'm going to do is go out there and I'm going to go down the field in 4 minutes. They're going to stall it on offense on a 3 and out at some point. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. They did last week against Las Vegas. It's going to happen. They're going to go 3 and out. Boom, I'm going to go to the offense. I'm going to go down the field again. Touchdown, game over. That's exactly what happened the first week of 2018 when we had that lead and Aaron Rodgers, got shot up in the leg with something that allowed him to come back into that game. I don't know what it was. And then he made that comeback. He's sitting there saying, look, this ain't even going to be hard, man, because we know their offense isn't explosive. They're never going to put us away. They're never going to put us away. They're never going to put us down. And that's what happened. That's what happened against Vegas. And I don't know if that's what they were thinking on the other side, but shit, I was thinking that. I was like, we're not going to put them away. We're going to let them creep back into the game. And now you have Aaron Rodgers instead of Derek Carr on the other side of the field. You got to put them. Again, this is all under the assumption they get off to a lead in the first place. But then again, how does that happen? I'm just thinking like there is something too when you're on that sideline and you just recognize the way the team has built their lead, the way the Saints built their lead week 1 was backbreaking plays. Boom. Interception for touch, a pick 6, backbreaking, to the point where I don't know if we can come back from this versus they really just kind of grinded out down the field. They converted on 5 third downs. They really weren't getting explosive plays, 5-yard rushes down here. That's not sustainable. You're sitting on the sideline thinking, look, this doesn't scare me. We can come back from this easier. So I just think that that's the identity sort of the opposing team, recognizing what you're doing on offense as that doesn't scare me once we get into the third and fourth quarter. Because the other thing too, Jake, and this is interesting, I really didn't expect this. Green Bay, I don't know where I put it now. They are third to last in the NFL in fourth quarter scoring.
Okay.
Third to last with, I think it's 4.6 or 29th in points scored in the fourth quarter. I think it's like 4.6. They also have gone to a pretty slow start in the first quarter. They're not ranked very high. Second and third quarter is where they dominate. That's where they take the game over. So you got to get off to a hot start, keep them at bay second and third quarter, put them away in the fourth. That I think is the formula.
Sure. No, I'm not saying play complacent. And I mean,
sure.
I've been fairly critical of the conservative play calling when you get to
right.
You can't do that. And I agree against Vegas. I think, and that's a good point. I think Vegas, that's a learning experience right there. That's where Bill Lazor can say, okay, yeah, the running game. And I said this on Monday. I think they ran it at the end of that game a lot because it was working too. Like the success of the running game was a part of that. I don't think it was just complacency. I think complacency was a part of it and trying to keep it out of Vegas's hands, but also the running game had been working all game. But no, you can't play complacent. Absolutely. And that's what I mean. As long as the running game's working, use it. But also we did see a shift in that kind of ideology from the Bears on that 3rd and 12 with the Justin Fields to Darnell Mooney pass. They let him throw it instead of running it and trying to milk 45 seconds or whatever off the clock before punting. We've seen kind of a shift towards going for it and a little bit more aggressive play calling with the lead. Granted, a tiny bit. You'd like to see a little bit more, but I think it's going to be another week of, all right, we see another step forward from the offense, and maybe it's enough. Maybe, you get a little bit better with the passing game. Maybe it is enough. By no means am I saying get complacent and just try to keep it out of their hands, because you're right. It's Aaron Rodgers. We saw it a couple weeks ago against San Francisco. You leave him 90 seconds at the end of the game, he's going to break your heart. So you do need to score points, and you need to use your word, you got to scare him a little bit. And so I think you can do that. I think what's different this year than years past is even if you go with the grounded pound, and even if you do establish the run game and try to win the time of possession battle, the difference is you do have Justin Fields. So when it does come time to throw it and make that big play, you actually believe it can happen. That 3rd and 12 against Vegas, you believe he's going to make that play and put it right in Darnell Mooney's lap, and he falls down on his ass to catch it, but he gets the first down because that was only where because he was about to get crunched from both sides, and that was only where Darnell Mooney was going to get it and hang on to it. And so you have that confidence that he's going to make those plays. The run against Cincinnati, the 3rd and 9 run to get you the first down and essentially win you the game. You have that confidence that you have a quarterback that when push comes to shove, that play is going to be made. Even if you are leaning on the run game, when it's time to do it, when it's time to win that game, get that first down, get whatever you need, you believe Justin Fields is going to do it. And that's the difference between this year and last year and the year before that and the year before that and the year before that and the year before that. That's the difference.
Keep going.
Yeah, exactly, et cetera. You know where this is going. So that's what I mean when I'm saying you can do the ground and pound because you believe you have the quarterback that can, and to your point, the changing of the guard could just be, all right, when the big play is needed, we have the guy to make the play now. We didn't in the past.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, they've had some, like the Mitch Trubisky played at Darnell Mooney last year is one of them, but it doesn't happen on a consistent repeatable. Yeah, exactly. It's not consistent. That's the key, is consistency. But to that point as well, you look at Green Bay's defense and what they're able to do. Yeah, Jair Alexander's out. This defense has been pretty mid, in my opinion. Pretty mid, as the kids would say. They have the worst red zone scoring percentage in the NFL. Teams are scoring in the red zone. Guess what percentage of teams are scoring in the red zone on them? 100% of the time.
No.
Every time a team has gotten in the red zone, a touchdown has been scored against the Green Bay Packers. Now, the reason why that number is so high is they're not getting to the red zone too often. I think they're only averaging 2.6 red zone trips per game by opponents, but still, you do the math there. That turns into like 13 trips. So out of 13 trips, 100% touchdown every single time. So that's really, really important, because now you look at the flip side of that. The Bears are best or top 3 red zone defense in the NFL. So if that's the way, you play this game is shit. Both teams, whether it's Green Bay flowing on offense, they're getting from the 20 to the 20, and the Bears are getting from the 20 to the 20. The winner of this game is going to be who prevents touchdowns. And in the past, against Aaron Rodgers, the Bears haven't been able to do that. Once they get in the red zone, it seems easy for them to score. But the way this defense has been playing, the bend don't break mentality, which Roquan Smith has no problem with, which I don't have a problem with if you're not allowing points on the board.
Right.
Then shit, so be it. Whoever scores touchdowns in the red zone is going to win this game, and whoever gets the turnovers is going to win this game. So it's also not just the turnovers, though. I do say that a lot, but I think it's important to note that there's 2 points to that. Yes, the turnovers count, but it's also the points after turnovers. I mean, the Bears won the turnover margin last week. They didn't do anything with them. They had turnover, and they ran 3 straight times into a 3 and out. You got to do something with them, especially against a team like Green Bay. You have to capitalize off the gifts that they give you when they do come. So I just thought that red zone scoring percentage, though, is 100%. That's really because the Bears haven't been phenomenal in the red zone. I mean, I would have to look at their red zone. I gotta look at their red zone scoring percentage right now, but I probably not in the top. Let's see, red zone scoring percentage TD. Bears are 17th, 61.54%. Okay,
middle of the pack.
Green Bay actually, this is interesting. Green Bay 27, 55% red zone scoring percentage. So when they're getting into the red zone, they're not scoring very often, which plays perfectly into the strength of your defense. So that's something to keep an eye on.
No, that is. And I mean, we could get a little bit into, because we've kind of stood on our soapboxes a little bit for each. So let's talk about it a little bit, going more into the kind of deeper dive into this game. The Packers injury report is just as extensive as the Bears, and talking about that defense of the Packers. And I said Josh King earlier. I meant Kevin King. Kevin King also did not practice today. We already know Alexander's out. King, he stinks, but he also is their second cornerback, now their top corner, and he's out. He's not out, but he didn't practice today. But Josh Myers was a full participant, so they probably will have him.
Well, I thought he was ruled out.
Full practice participant today.
What the hell? All right,
so,
my fault for that. I said that earlier.
But, Dennis Kelly, their tackle, one of their starting tackles, he didn't practice today. Like I said, Kevin King, Robert Tonyan was a limited practice. Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, limited practice. So Aaron Jones, they have a couple guys that are banged up too. But, this Bears injury report is extensive today. We'll start with the full practice guys. Xavier Crawford, he practiced. He got an injury last week. Justin Fields, he was full participant. He was good. Danny Trevathan, full participant. But, Jimmy Graham, he got his standard veteran rest day, whatever. But Akeem Hicks didn't practice. Caleb Johnson didn't practice. Yeah. Khalil Mack didn't practice. Allen Robinson didn't practice.
What?
The two big ones, Akeem Hicks is going to be out. We know that. But Khalil Mack and Allen Robinson, here's what I'll say about that. In a physical game like you had against the Raiders, and a game that was kind of, there was a lot of contact. It was a very physical game. I'm not surprised to see these guys out. I'm telling myself that it's just a rest day, even though it's not saying rest day. I'm telling myself they'll be fine, even if they're only limited Thursday and Friday. They're gonna play. Khalil Mack's playing this game. There is not a chance in hell that Khalil Mack, as long as he practices at some point this week, Khalil Mack is playing this game. But this injury report, it's extensive, and it's a little scary because there are some key guys that are popping up here.
Yeah, I'm not terrified about it. I think Allen Robinson's going to play. We know Khalil Mack's going to play. Akeem Hicks is going to be out. We know that basically. I'm not, entirely worried about that. The way that the Bears defense has played without him, and with Mario Edwards, Eddie Goldman, and Bilal Nichols in place, have been really good. So I'm not. It's long. It's long when you open it up on Twitter again. It's longer than you want it to be, but I'm still not worried about the actual status. I'll be more worried about that on Friday if we get actual, or Saturday or Sunday when we get actual confirmation that these guys are out. But I think all the guys that are important on that list are going to play. Obviously, Justin Fields, obviously, Andrew Robinson, Khalil Mack. I think those guys are all set to play. So I'm not too worried about the injury report there. But it is worth noting.
This is the week you have to hear Eddie Goldman's name a couple times he's been playing, but he usually, especially in the run game, you hear Eddie Goldman. And I don't even think he's made a play that I've been like, oh, there's Eddie Goldman. I don't think he's done that yet this year.
No.
I've seen a lot of Bilal Nichols, honestly, who has made those plays, and which has been great. But this is the week you need Eddie Goldman, especially with Akeem Hicks out. yeah, Eddie Goldman garners attention, and he's a guy that you pay attention to as an opposing offense. But he's got to get in the backfield this week. I think and we'll get to it, but he's one of the key guys for me that if you want to win this game, he's got to stand out.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you play Green Bay, a lot of their, how do you put Aaron Rodgers under duress? It really comes from the interior. I mean, they've got Dave Bakhtiari over there, right guard, and I forget who else is the other guy that they have traditionally had on the left side. Shame on me for not doing my full research on that. But I think, like, you remember 2018, like it was a whole lot of Khalil Mack in that game, but it was also a whole lot of Akeem Hicks almost just as much, like up the middle, providing penetration. What does that do? You get Eddie Goldman and Bilal Nichols, you force Rodgers out, boom, there's Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn to put him down. You know what I mean? So force him from the inside out, and you got really two talented, speed, fast edge rushers who are going to get after him. So that's why I think, you talk about the importance of Eddie Goldman. Yeah, it happens in the run game, and we know that's there. I think it's almost more important that he gets after Aaron Rodgers in the pass game than it is in the run game. I mean, this rushing offense hasn't been great this year. Aaron Jones hasn't been what he was in 2020. A.J. Dillon has stepped in fine, but he's not really exactly what Jamal Williams was for the past few years. I would say their running game has taken a step down, and it's not significant. They're still a good rushing offense, but it has taken a slight step down. So I just think, we've seen the formula. Obviously, like, this is not a surprise to anyone. Like, when you get after the quarterback, the odds are you're going to win a football game, but it's worked, especially against some really good passing offenses. Again, the Raiders were the number one passing offense in the league going into last week, and the Bears completely shut them down with almost single-handedly Khalil Mack off the edge, providing pressure in every play. I mean, we didn't hear a lot from Robert Quinn in that game. So if you get Robert Quinn to play the way he had in the first
we didn't hear
4
a lot
weeks,
from Robert Quinn at all last year.
Yeah, you can afford one game and not hear a lot. But I mean, the Bears still lead this NFL in sacks with 18. I have a reason to believe that they're going to get after him. They're going to get after him and put Aaron Rodgers under duress. And again, like, this is his last year, man. Most likely he's going to retire after this year. I think he's more easily frustrated. I mean, Aaron Rodgers traditionally is frustrated when he goes down. Every single time. Where's my football? Every single time Aaron Rodgers, goes down, we get one of these. He rolls his eyes. He flips the ball to the ref, shakes his head, and we get one of those every single time. He makes a bad throw or Khalil Mack gets after him. You've seen the face every single time. You've seen the face on the cameras, and I just think this year, the situation, the way the team has played in the past, the evidence we have of them in the past. If you do that this week, your odds of really crumbling them and breaking them down mentally is going to be a lot higher.
Well, also reminder that there is no David Bakhtiari this week. He's still out, and this is the last. You got him just under the wire because this is the last week, I believe, that before he starts practicing again. So you got in. You got in just under the wire there. So no, but I mean, you're right, and this is clear, and this is across the league. If you could put the opposing quarterback on his ass and make him uncomfortable. And I mean, we've said this about this Bears team. If you can make the opposing quarterback uncomfortable with your pass rush, that's going to create opportunities for your offense. And I mean, obviously your defense and transitive property, your offense. So yeah, I mean, that's got to be big. I mean, they have to play well. I mean, even if Myers plays, he's dealing with this finger thing. It's going to finger injury might be a little harder to grab onto Khalil Mack or, Eddie Goldman or Bilal Nichols or whoever, Mario Edwards, whoever's in there. So, maybe you can exploit that a little bit, and they are playing with some backups. So definitely an opportunity for you to cause some havoc here. But to your earlier point, you have to if you get those turnovers, got to do something with them. Score. You got to turn, even if it turn them into 3 points, you just can't go 3 and out. You got to turn them into points somehow and the Bears, to their credit, they've been winning the turnover margin so far this week. I think their turnover margin, they're like +4 or something in the turnover margin. And they've been sacking the quarterback a lot more this year compared to last year through 5 games or whatever it is. So, I mean, there's opportunity. I mean, this defense has been playing really well. They're missing their top corner. They're missing their top, offensive lineman and Bakhtiari. Yeah. There's going to be opportunity here. And so, I mean, this is going to be, I think, a perfect segue into who's your breakout player this week. I mean, I said mine. I mean, mine's Eddie Goldman, your guy, your breakout guy, your standout guy, who you're watching. I mean, who's yours? And then we'll get into a little who you got.
I think it's Allen Robinson. I do. We've been waiting on this one. We've been sitting on this one, and it's only a matter of time. And I said this last week, so I'm being redundant, being repetitive. But again, you look at the matchups. I don't know why they didn't take advantage of what the Raiders were lacking in their secondary. But if you want to take a look at that game, they still had Casey Hayward Jr., arguably the best cornerback in the league right now, as rated by Pro Football Focus, is rated as the best cornerback by the stats, the numbers. So he was shadowing on Robinson.
I love that you're saying it like that because you love Pro Football Focus.
No, I hate them. I reference them, but I don't understand it. Like what the stats? It's a number system that doesn't make sense. Like you can't quantify. I don't understand how they do it. It doesn't rub the right way. Anyway, you have, for the point of the Raiders, they had their number 1, but they didn't have their number 2, 3. For the Packers, they don't have their number 1, but they have the number 2 and 3, and the number 2 and 3 aren't very good. I mean, Eric Stokes is a rookie. I mean, he's looked fine this year, but he's still a rookie. Allen Robinson can expose a rookie with ease. I just think this is the game where you have to take advantage of what they lack from an injury standpoint. They lack Jair Alexander, and Allen Robinson has been able to do work against Jair in the past, but we need him to have a game. We need him to get targets. That's number 1. And if you want to look at first an increase of targets, then it's right there in front of you. He's going against cornerbacks. He knows that he can dominate. He knows he can shake at the line of scrimmage. It's no problem. And he knows Justin Fields is going to give him the ball if he gets open. So I think this is the Allen Robinson breakout game for this year, meaning we see, it doesn't have to be 100, maybe 80 plus yards, 90, just where he's an impact player and maybe a touchdown in the end zone. A touchdown,
I think, is
so 80 and a touchdown.
Especially.
That's what you need, and I think that's what you're going to see given their secondary.
All right. Well, I said mine, Eddie Goldman. You need him to step up. I mean, this is the week that you need him, especially to, be that guy that creates that pressure.
I also have another one.
Okay.
Jaylen Johnson. So he has a task this week, and we know Davante Adams leads the league in the receiving yards with 579. But this is why Jaylen Johnson's task is so important. Davante Adams is 3rd in the NFL in percent share of teams' air yards. So he's accumulating 45.82% of the team's air yards. So 45.82% of the yards that the Packers have accumulated offense through passing has gone to Davante Adams. The only players higher than that are Jamar Chase and Brandon Cooks. And you look at the rest of their team. If you take away Davante Adams, they have nothing. Offense, nothing that scares you. I've said this in the past, and they always find a way to make that back-breaking play against you with Allen Lazard, with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but those guys aren't reliable. Those guys aren't consistent. You take away Davante Adams, who the hell, Robert Tonyan, Aaron Jones out of the backfield?
They're pedestrian.
Josh, and that's why this is my, one of my key players is Jaylen Johnson has been one of 4 players in the NFL who hasn't allowed a touchdown in single coverage. If he shadows Davante Adams, locks him down, you force Aaron Rodgers to throw the ball consistently to Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb and all those other guys, then, you have a good chance of making this offense more one-dimensional than they want to be.
No, that's completely fair. And I think even, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we do got to get to predictions eventually. But, to that point, Sean Desai, I mean, he's got to do what he did last week and get creative, throw him off, do some, things where you hide a safety or, on the interception, DeAndre Houston-Carson may hide a safety, do something they're not expecting. And just Sean Desai's been great. He's been very, very good ever since that Cleveland game. And, I think he's done a great job. Just got to keep it going. So, that's great. Let's do who you got real quick. I know you have a bunch. Let's do like 3.
All right. Damian Williams, Khalil Herbert versus Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon.
Bear side of that.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Why? Real quick, why?
I think Khalil Herbert showed a lot of really good burst. We know what Damian Williams brings, and the interior offensive line had their best game last week. I think that it's a momentum thing. And like you said, Aaron Jones just hasn't impressed me this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. Based off statistics as well. That's the correct thing to say. This one I already kind of mentioned, but I want you to take on Allen Robinson versus Davante Adams.
I have to take Davante Adams. Davante Adams is a top 3 receiver in this league. I love Allen Robinson, but that's not really a contest.
Yeah. I'll go Davante as well on that one. Bears front 4 versus Packers O-line.
it's hard not to take the Bears front four. I mean, even without Akeem Hicks, they've been very, very impressive. They're, instead of just pressuring the quarterback, they've been bringing them down this year. They've been hitting guys. I'm going to take the Bears front four by a hair.
Okay. That's and then this one was kind of interesting. Jimmy Graham and Cole Kmet versus Robert Tonyan and whoever the hell else is in Green Bay.
I'm going to go Tonyan just from a usage standpoint.
Jimmy Graham revenge game, man.
I just think Tonyan gets more looks. He's the usage rate is way higher. But I would love to be proved wrong on that one. But all right, 5 minutes left. Let's get into our predictions finally for this game. Bears obviously are they? I mean, they got to be dogs, right?
Yeah, dogs by 4.5.
Okay, there you go. So 4.5. Bears are dogs at home. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first? I'll go first because I already know you're going to pump the people up, and I'm going to be a Debbie Downer here. No. I think this team is better. I think they lose this game. It's as much as I want to believe that this team is that much better and that this team is ready to take that leap. I have to side with history here. I have to side with Aaron Rodgers is pissed off from last week. He wants to make a statement. He knows they're bad on the road. I like the direction this offense is headed. I just don't think they're there yet. I love what this defense is doing. I just think it's going to – so that's why I think you lose this game barely. I think you lose this game 28-21. I think you barely lose this game. And I think you will run with them, and I think it's close. But I think ultimately you do lose this game. I don't think they're quite there yet. It pains me to say it, and I know people aren't going to love it. It's not going to be the popular pick, but – I think they just barely lose that game. I do think we come away from this game encouraged, though. I think we come away at least encouraged, feeling like you can compete with these playoff-esque teams.
Okay. I mean, that's not the unpopular pick. The majority of the world is going to pick Green Bay in this game.
Well, on this show, I should say.
Oh, on this show, yeah. Well, among our listeners who are all juiced up in this game, probably won't be the pick. I'm trying to look at what percentage of the country here has Green Bay in this game. Let's see. I can't find it, but I can't find
the majority. It's going to be a decent amount.
It's the vast majority. Oh, Jake, I can't do it. I can't. I based off of what I presented, I got to do it. I got to do it. I got to do it. I got to go Bears 27-24. I got to do it. You telling me I'm going Packers in this game with Justin Fields and the momentum, and we're in Chicago. No fans last year. We got the fans back in the stands. They're going to be making noise. They're going to rattle Aaron Rodgers to the bone. This is I don't know. Like, again, yes, is this the optimistic pick? Without a doubt. All right. I will own up to it. It is the optimistic pick. I'm aware of that, all right? I don't need slander for that, okay? I know I'm kind of reaching here, but I'm doing it, and sure, I'm having a little fun.
It's not like you're predicting a blowout.
I'm not predicting a blowout. No, that'd be stupid. But again, I have reasoning behind these things, all right? Everything I presented in the last 57 minutes of this podcast gives me some sort of feeling that they can win, and fuck it, maybe they will, Yeah. And again, from what I said at the start, I like to make picks based off of my gut. I mean, I pick NFL games each week, and I don't do research on every single game. I don't do betting research on every single – I can't do that. That's too many games. I go with my gut on certain teams. I got to go with my gut here based off of what I've seen, based off of the momentum and coming to Chicago. I just think that it has the makings. It has the makings of the changing of the guard. It has the makings of the Bears finally, topple Aaron Rodgers and take over this division for the coming years. It's, the post-game picture that will be remembered forever between Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers after this week. And,
all right. So you're going 27-24. Are you going last second field goal or last second defensive stand?
I think I'm going to go, last second field goal because I don't want to say last second defensive stand because Aaron Rodgers. I'm not.
That's a smart pick.
And then I have one bold prediction too.
Correct.
Jakeem Grant takes one to the house off of a punt.
Okay. That's bold. He was
So-
aggressive last week. I mean, you
He's
saw
aggressive.
it. He has the burst, and he was. I don't hate that pick. No, and you're right. It has the makings for it. It could happen. I'm just betting on the side of
Yeah.
history.
You're betting on the side of being smart, and I'm betting.
Well,
on the
that's
side of being
generally how
stupid.
this show goes, though. You're generally the
Yeah,
more
generally.
optimistic one.
But hey, let's take a note of the records that we each have betting the Bears this year. I'm 4-1.
You're up.
3-2.
You're up. Yeah, you are up. Well, that's because I was so down after the Lions game.
Yeah,
I was,
fair
I
enough.
was I was very
But you
sad.
picked the Lions to win that game.
I was very sad going to the Lions game, but it
Yeah,
worked.
okay.
It worked. Now
It
you're on
worked.
a winning streak. So
Yeah, okay.
anyway, thank you to everyone for listening and for watching. We appreciate the comments were great as always. We love all of you. Let's go. I mean, bear down. We love it. We will see you on Monday to break this game down. No matter which way it goes, we'll be here. We know you'll have things to say, win or lose. So until Monday, bear down, and we'll see you then.
Bear down.